Hello there guys, welcome back to another video. We are of course working back on the BMW 650i. Before we get into this video though, do me a massive favour, hit that thumbs up button, it really does help me out and it shows your appreciation. Now then, exactly what are we going to be doing today? So we are going to be showing this car some love. We are going to be rust proofing the underside of it. So as many of you know, I've not long just got back from an over 4,000 mile road trip around Europe and this thing hasn't been cleaned since. Since getting back, I've also done quite a few jobs on this car, but I'm very happy with how it is currently mechanically. But now we need to show some love to it cosmetically. And today in this video, I'm going to be applying some Lanoguard products. So right here then we have some Lanoguard Easy Underbody and Rust Protection, and this is a spray. You apply this to the car using one of these spray nozzles. And then we also have some grease as well. Now essentially what this is for the very stubborn areas which are more prone to rust, so your bolt heads, your nuts, your seam welds, things like that. The spray, however, is just to be applied as a complete blanket protection for the underside of your car. Now Lanoguard is produced from lanolin, which comes from the grease that is found in sheep's wool. So it's quite a unique product and it's not like many of the others that you may find on the market. How Lanoguard works, it basically covers any surface rust, it will stop any moisture and air getting to that rust, and it will stop it in its tracks. Now I've heard some very good things about this stuff. I am much looking forward to giving it a go on my BMW 650i, but you'll notice I have two of these bottles. That's because I'm also going to be rust proofing Project KFC, which is my daily driver, the 2010 BMW E91 3 Series. One of these bottles is more than enough to cover the underside of just one vehicle, so we'll probably find out that we have quite a bit left over from applying this to two vehicles. Now Lanoguard also offer an injection wand, and this is to apply Lanoguard to any hard to reach areas like in any cavities or any areas that you may not be able to get to with just the regular spray nozzle. Right then, should be relatively easy to get this applied. First thing we need to do though is get the car up in the air and give the underside a good thorough cleaning. So as you can see, have the front of the car now up in the air. We're ready to give it a good thorough clean. I'll do the front section first, then I'll get the rear of the car up in the air and do the rear section. Now this car is in very good condition actually underneath. Most of it is actually aluminium. There is a few odd steel parts which will rust, like this anti-roll bar. We have the track rods and track rod ends and the various other little bits and pieces as well, like these steel hard pipes. If we get all this cleaned up and protected with Lanoguard, it's just going to keep it in great condition for many more years to come. So I've just snow foamed how I usually would when doing the exterior. I'm going to leave that to sit for 10 minutes or so, then pressure wash it off. So after a good snow foam and then going over with the pressure washer, the underside's looking pretty clean now. If you find that your car is particularly bad, you know, if you have a lot of stubborn oil and road grime, you may have to agitate it with a brush. If you find that you have a lot of loose flaking rust, remove that beforehand with a wire brush. No point applying Lanoguard directly to material that's just going to fall straight off. You want to remove any loose material. And now with the rear of the car up on some ramps, it's time to begin preparing this rear section. So it's a little bit worse back here, a little bit more exposed. So the spare wheel well, that has some surface rust build-up on it. Not terrible, but it's worth noting, worth protecting that, just so it doesn't get any worse. Rear anti-roll bar, again, that has a little bit of flaking paint on and some surface rust. And then the rear differential, that's probably the worst of the bunch. These always suffer, these BMW rear differentials. So I'm going to give that a quick wire brush just to get rid of any of the loose material, and this will come up lovely then once it's been coated. There we go then, just a quick wire brush on that differential, and again on that rear anti-roll bar as well, just to get rid of any loose material. It's worth mentioning as well, this is where I'll be applying the grease to nuts and to the end of bolts which are exposed to the elements. Yeah, definitely don't want that to rust away, because it makes removing them in the future an absolute nightmare. Okay, so I've got the car back in the garage now. It's actually the next day. I thought I'd just leave it to dry overnight. And yes, it's perfectly dry under here now. That doesn't have to be bone dry to apply Lanoguard. It will displace water to a degree. But if you do have the luxury of waiting for it to dry out, then do so. Now to begin with, I'm going to apply the Lanoguard moto grease, and again this is going to be for the stubborn area, so any nuts, any bolts that may be exposed. I'm going to apply a bit to these pipes here, because as you can see these are the worst affected areas at the front of the vehicle. Now this grease is very thick, so if it is particularly cold out like it is today, then it's worth warming this up in some warm water, just to make it a little bit easier to apply. As you can see, once it's in some warm water, it really does go quite thin then. So I'll just use the supplied brush and quite literally just brush it on. Now I'm sure these pipes would be absolutely fine with just the regular Lanoguard spray, but it's quite clear to see that this is the worst affected area here at the front. When I get onto the rear, I'll probably give the rear differential and various nuts and bolts a good coating with this grease as well. I'll then follow that up with a coating of the spray. And the good thing about this grease, it does dry clear, so you won't really notice that you have a grease on it as such. It will remain sticky for, you know, a few days, but then after a week or so it will be solid, and you won't, like I said, you won't even notice that it's on there. It's worth waiting at least 24 hours or so there before driving the car, just to give it time to cure. Yeah, any nuts or bolts that you see exposed, just give it a coating in this grease and they'll remain intact then. And so after applying the grease to the front section of the car, here's how things are looking. Very, very easy to apply. But with that now done, we can move on to the spray. Now I'm just going to completely cover the underside of the car. There's no need to mask anything up. It's completely safe with plastics and rubbers. So you can kind of just go to town really. Anything that you want protected from rust and corrosion, get it covered. Now it will look quite shiny as it goes on, but it will dry more of a matte texture. And like I said, it'll look more like a factory finish. Well, that really took no time at all. So easy to apply. And with the front of the car now completely covered, let's get those rear wheels up in the air and let's do the same at the back. So the rear of the car now up in the air. Then I'm going to apply grease to the rear differential and then just the heads of these bolts and any nuts that I can see that are exposed, just to prevent the surface rust from getting any worse. So again, we'll go in with our brush and just get this thing covered. Now, truth be told, you would be absolutely fine just going over this with the spray, but I just like to go over the top sometimes just to give it as good of a protection as possible, just to really stop this surface rust in its tracks. So I've had it before where the rust on a rear differential has actually been an MOT advisory, so I'd like that to not be the case in the future. And even if you tried to paint these differentials, the rust still comes back, whereas using something like Lanoguard, it will just stop any rust from forming as long as it's protected. And here we go then. That's the grease applied to all of the stubborn areas. Any areas which are particularly bad. Now, you don't have to be too pedantic about making sure every last spot is covered. That's where the spray comes in. So there is some areas up there which I can't quite reach to apply the grease, but that will get liberally coated with the spray. Right, let's get to it. So, after using only around half a bottle, I think we're done. I've applied as much spray as the car will allow. Everything is completely covered from top to bottom. Front to back. It's looking great. As I mentioned, it does look shiny for the time being, but it will go more of a matte finish. And this yellowy colour from the grease, that will also die down. That will make this differential just look black once it's fully cured. But yeah, looking absolutely fantastic. Well then, there we go. Nice little job done on the BMW 650i. This thing should now be well protected for the foreseeable future. Like I said, it was in great condition anyway, but I just basically want to prolong that and get this thing lasting, what, another 17 years or so. Now that I'm basically a professional with Lanoguard, I'm definitely going to apply it to my daily driver, Project KFC, because that is definitely a little bit worse for wear underneath, should we say. And like I said, I'll keep you updated with regards to how that is getting on. I think I'll do like a 3-month update and then maybe like a 6 months update, especially as I'll be driving the car over the winter period. So it'll be good to see how that Lanoguard protection is holding up. If you do want to check out Lanoguard, I will of course leave all of the details down in the description box below. I want to thank you all for watching this video. Remember to give it a like, leave a comment down below, subscribe if you have not already done so, and I will see you all in that next one.